And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley. What is up, everyone? We are back. Robert and I, a day late and a dollar, well, short. We have been reviewing your book, and I just kind of had some technical difficulties this morning. Seems like I had some yesterday. I hope that everything is streaming okay, but you got to love technology, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I woke up to no cell phone service, so we'll see how it all plays out today.
I would guess that they'd have that back up soon, but you never know. I mean, it's one of those deals like you when it's all down, everyone's got to kind of wonder, why is it down? What's going on today that we can't communicate?
Yeah, definitely.
I have to tell you, I can't get my internet to pull up. I think we're going through. So is it playing for keeps this week? Do you remember?
It is playing for keeps this week.
Okay. I read the chapter yesterday, reviewed it. And again, you know, we've got this book coming out. How is that going? Give everyone a little bit of an update on how that's going.
We got everything back from the editors, completed that process, and it goes to the formatters today. It'll be at the formatters for approximately 7 days, and then it's ready to be released. Or in this case, you know what it means. It means uploaded.
So it will be here shortly.
Probably right at 10 days.
10 days. Very nice. So right at the end of the month, it sounds like. Tell us a little bit about that process, how that has gone for you. Are you getting excited? How's it going?
Well, I had to go through the corrections on 240 footnotes. Okay, so 240 footnotes and at least 500 small things, right? Little small things. So I literally had to sit there and push the button and look at them to accept the edit, right? So I did that about 700 times going through the text. Okay, it was, and then I had to change about 40 graphics, right?
Oh,
Because
man.
I had a small error in the graphics. I had to go back and do the graphics. So it took me about 7 days to incorporate the edits. I got to tell you that the editors were absolutely fabulous. They did a fantastic job.
Yeah, that is like the monotony of doing that would drive me nuts because I don't like the citations, all that stuff. Like that's the worst part about writing a paper, you know. I think it may, I don't know, it got easier as you went, but still it's like, this is just stupid.
Well, we have a citation generator, and so I had thought that my citations were basically right, and they weren't. So it was just little things, and again, all I had to do was press and accept. It wasn't like I had to do a lot of laborious work.
Right.
But nonetheless, the editors were just absolutely fabulous. They were, like I said, like you mentioned, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I would have lost my mind at 200 edits, and they were at like 700.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why you got someone else looking at it, right? Because in our mind, we think, oh, this looks great. And then this person does this for a living. And I hope they enjoy it.
Oh, I really think she did. This was not to plug anybody, but this is Kirkus Reviews, the big book reviewer, and they were my editors. And so, I mean, like I said, an absolutely fabulous job. And they wrote a wonderful little 2-page letter, explaining why they did certain things and all that kind of stuff, and how much they, as she put it, used a very light hand because there wasn't much to change.
Right.
And I chuckled and she's right. I mean, major changes was very little, but it was, that you don't use quotations on a comment, you use italics, that kind of stuff, if you want to stay true to one form. So
Yeah.
it is quite the process.
And it's not like you haven't written this book like 12 times now or more.
Oh God, this is what it feels like. And so to be honest with you, when you say, do I get excited? It's more like, thank you, Jesus. It's over.
Yeah.
And when somebody asks me a question about it, of course, I pretty much have it memorized, right? Because you've done it so many times.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've lived it.
Yeah,
it's amazing though, because like you sit there and you look through it and you're like, I live this. How many different ways can I describe this? How many things can I add to it?
Yeah, and I guess some of the times people have mentioned to me, that's really cool, but you didn't kind of explain to me why you were there. And I said, well, I was a tourist. I
Yeah.
was whatever. I didn't think about it that way. I just thought about the visceralness of the experience, right?
Well, and there's some
You know,
things
all,
that you
all-
can't talk about, right? Like you can only talk about a certain amount. People, I don't know that people, if you've listened the first time, Robert's had kind of an interesting life. He's been in a point where there is some things that you just can't talk about.
yeah. My what we call my Cold War service. None of it is. You can't discuss any of it, even though you think you've got a 25-year maximum on declassifying things. We signed NDAs with no time limit on them.
Yeah.
So there's non-disclosure agreements that forever.
That's crazy. So like even if they release it, you still can't talk about it. Like if they've
Well, no, once it hits the
declassified it.
public, I can talk about it.
Okay. All right. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming that there's
Once
some things that you can start talking about here because they've been declassifying a lot of stuff, but not everything.
Well, what happens is for example, my son had mentioned, he said, one of your guys is on Jocko Willick.
Oh yeah.
And I said, what do you mean one of my guys is on Jocko Willick? He said, Dad, you need to go listen. And I said, well, he wasn't one of my guys, but yes, he was over there at the same time. And I said, yes, now that he's talking about it, yes, I can talk about it
Right.
because he bears the brunt of the declassification. I don't.
Right.
So
He's the one who did the naughty things.
if he talked out of school, that's on him, not me.
Yep. Well, we're looking at chapter 7. This is Playing for Keeps. Tell us a little bit about it. I think that we run across a lot of things in the book, flying planes, jumping out of planes. Now we're talking about, an infatuation with a woman, kind of, sort of.
Well, yeah, I ran across a young lady on TikTok, and she was getting over a breakup and a divorce after a long marriage, and she was dealing with the consequence of that. And she was kind of working through her emotions in various TikToks, and she's an actress too, so she was, doing a fantastic job. But nonetheless, I had kind of watched her for months, and then all of a sudden, she put out this one TikTok, which was about what she wants in a man. And so there was a series of pictures, one right after another, about what she wants. But the crux of what she was saying was, I don't want to date. I want to play for keeps, right? I want somebody who's interested in the long haul, that kind of thing. And she's kind of showing what you want: romance, travel, all that stuff that everybody idealize or romanticizes in a relationship. So that's what she put out there, which led me to the question, which is, what is love? And that's what got kind of strange in here, because we're in a society where a lot is disposable. And unfortunately, maybe people are too. And so that becomes then an issue of, what does love mean? And what does friendship love mean? What does romantic love? And so I kind of broke it down. And that's what the chapter is really about, is playing for keeps when you start saying that somebody's important. And I put 3 things down that were important for friendship, which is the basis of everything. And I said, you look at the person and you say, I see your value, I see your worth. I will show up for you even in my worst, and your family, I will never leave you. Okay, so that's that kind of baseline commitment you kind of think about, and maybe I kind of think about, for people that we've had in our lives since maybe high school or junior high, or people we've had, in our lives 10, 20 years. And you begin to say, you're not disposable, you're permanent. And so then the question became, what's the line that you jump over for romance? And I said, well, you still have to have the first 3, where you say, I see your worth, I see your value, I will show up for you even at my worst, and your family. Those are the same base core. But then you jump over this line and you say, basically, I want to rip your clothes off, and I want you to be my person to share memories with.
Right.
I want you to be the person that is the major milestones in my career, my family, my life. And so that was the playing for keeps idea, was, people aren't going to be disposable. unless they are transactional. For example, as bad as this is to say, of course, you go out with somebody and all you're really interested in is the physical, right? Sleeping with them. Well, that's transactional,
Right.
right? I will do what it's necessary to sleep with you, and you will do what's necessary to keep me in your life so you will sleep with me. That's transactional.
Yeah.
And so we find that, especially dating apps, right?
Hmm.
Very transactional, right? You do for me, I do for you. That's really frustrating for a lot of people because it's not playing for keeps. It's not saying that when I become vulnerable and open to you that you're going to hang with me. It says just the opposite. It says when you no longer do for me what I need you to do, you are disposable.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's crazy how, like, as you're talking about this, I'm just sitting here thinking, like, this was never my thought process. Like, my thought process has always been, and I might be different than people today, but we also came up in a different time, and I think you did as well. But
Right.
that you were, my parents got married when they're 18. I don't necessarily know that I was gonna get married when I was 19, and when I did get married when I was 19, but I didn't really think that I was gonna do that growing up. But it was, you're looking for that person you want to be. I always thought of a relationship as you're looking for that person you want to be with forever. So it was never just like, hey, this is a fling thing, right?
Right.
And obviously you get attracted, there's ways, reasons why you're attracted to certain people, the way they look, things like that. That's the start. But it was always like, okay, so am I attracted to their mind? Am I attracted to who they are? Am I attracted to more than just the way that they look? And now it's kind of like, I'm just people, like you said, it's transactional. People are just looking for the physical part, right? Like they want to get that done. And that's
Mhm.
what these dating apps have kind of desensitized something that was supposed to be, between someone like a husband and a wife, maybe, or a long-term
Yep.
relationship, right? Living with the person before, like, you remember how it was like, everything was, you don't live with the person that you don't sleep with them until you're married. You don't live with them before you're married. You don't like, this is what all the things. And now it's like, it's okay to do that. It's okay to just sleep around. It's okay to have, 50 relationships before you get married, and it's just a different time. Like, it's desensitized it that those dating apps have done that.
Well, there was this story, and it was obviously just illustrative. It was a man and woman who were divorced, and he was coming to drop the two kids off, a little boy and a little girl, right? And drops them off. They go to their rooms, and he gets into it with his ex, right? They get into a little bit of a screaming match, right? And so then the dad goes in to say goodbye to the kids, right? He goes into the daughters and he says, Dad walks in and says, Sweetie, I just want to say goodbye and tell you I love you. And she stops him and she said, Dad, do you love me the way you loved Mom? And so now, yeah, you see what I mean is
Yeah.
what does the word mean, right?
Right.
Because that little girl wants to know if she's just as disposable as Mom is.
Right.
Because, obviously he said he loved Mom at one point and then that love went away. And so the kid wants to know, do you fall out of love with me too?
Right.
That's really hard. But, they can only do with the example that we set, unfortunately. And if we don't have any value for that, we throw the words around, they're loosey goosey, then, well, what are the kids, what example do they have?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's crazy because they don't really think of that. In college, we talked about like kids knowing the context of situations, right? Like, so if they don't understand what the meaning of is, and I think about this every time I'm watching a movie, like, you push that limit. I have a 10-year-old, and I know I push the limit a little too much with like watching like a PG-13 movie or watching, something that she shouldn't be around. But they talk about, and I always wonder, like, anytime someone starts talking about sex on TV, it's like, does she get that? Does she understand what they're talking about? Does she know more than I think she knows? And that's the thing, is like, that context of what that is, kids see that differently. So like you were just saying with the love thing, they look at it in a different way. So if they hear that and they understand it, then it could be pretty detrimental to their growth.
Yeah. I mean, again, we talk about the ways we learn. One of the biggest ways we learn is mimicking, right?
Hmm.
We model.
Yeah.
So whatever you show us is what we know. And for kids, The only marriage they're inside is yours.
Right.
And so, how a dad acts, you just showed them. How a mom acts. Now, eventually, what happens is they branch out and they have friends, right? They spend time with their friends and they see other examples of men and women having marriages and relationships. But think about this: what if they're around nothing but broken relationships,
Right.
right? Single moms, single dads, all that. What do they know? They have
That's the
no
way it
concept
is.
of what a marriage is. Right.
Right.
And so this is one of the challenges we face in our culture is I was talking to a good friend, and her ex was treating her badly, disrespecting her as a mother, not disrespecting as a person. In other words, he wasn't keeping her up to date, that kind of thing. And she was livid, right? Well deservedly so. But what does that show the kids,
Right.
right? If you have your differences, it's one thing, but you should be kind of a united front with kids. And a lot of times people use their kids to fight their battles with their exes.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing is like
Yeah.
I saw it. So my brother, like my brother's been divorced twice and has kids with two different women, and just like looking at the way that they paint him in the picture. And I mean, he has his faults and I can see them painting him a certain way, but like hopefully, like if that ever happened with me, my wife wouldn't be that way. I don't see that ever happening, but never say never. But like
Right.
getting painted in that light because they're so bitter about the situation, about what had happened, how it unfolded, and all that stuff. It really couldn't, like, he doesn't have a relationship with his one son because the mother of that one has painted him in this light that he's not. I mean, he does have his faults, but that's the bad thing. It's like you got to hope if that relationship ever ends that you're going to be able to co-parent that way, but it can just destroy a kid. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. I'm divorced. I only have one mother of all of my four children, and we have our differences, but I don't say anything bad about her. I don't even ask what she says about me. The kids kind of leave it, and they're not kids, of course. The youngest
Yeah.
one's 25. So, but I just left the problems. In other words, seeing me for all my flaws, seeing her for her flaws. I left that to the kids to decide for themselves as they got older, right?
Yeah.
In other words, I'm very human. She's very human. Please understand that we had our differences, but at least can we agree that we'll treat her with respect because she's your mother? Treat me with respect because I'm your father. For whatever my failings are, I tried, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like kind of the part that I went back to when I said, I see your worth, I see your value, that kind of thing, and I will show up for you, okay, even at my worst, right? And your family, you're not disposable. Those are really baseline things that, like you said about your wife, God forbid that anything ever happened, but you said she wouldn't treat you with that kind of disrespect. That's key. She may be madder than hell at you, right? For
Right.
whatever you did, but it still doesn't you don't have to do that through your kids.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. You can work your differences out. You can have your anger, all that kind of stuff. I get that. But that's really what Playing for Keeps was saying is listen, when you start forming relationships with people and you start saying things like, you're valuable to me, you're my friend, I love you, those kind of things, then they need to have meaning.
Right.
But they need to have meaning that we can both agree what that meaning is. And see, that's the problem. My current girlfriend says to me, she doesn't like the word because it's so loaded,
Mm-hmm.
and it's never meant to her what it should. In other words, everybody that ever used the word, they were doing it for their agenda.
Right.
They weren't doing it because they actually cared about her that way. And that's really hard because now you have a word that's been it's just a word,
Yeah.
right? But the meaning behind it is so tarnished. Kind of like people with Valentine's Day. We missed this message on the 14th, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but Valentine's Day, people, oh, I hate it, commercial, blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, it's a lot of things. But you know what? I always look at it like this. Okay, it's a day that I can remember the people that are important to me, right? I can remember the person that I'm with. and just do something sweet or nice. It doesn't have to be over dramatized. It can just be a good reminder, kind of like a birthday, right?
Right.
It's a good reminder you just got a year older.
Yep.
Good, better, and different, right?
Right.
It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yeah. And you know how my Valentine's Day went. I don't really care
Yes.
for it very much, but like waking up in the middle of the night with my wife not feeling very well was not very fun. So, and then it just kind of, it's funny how it just kind of, everything just kind of rolled downhill. I'm like, you know what? This week is, I'm done. I can't do this week. I need a break. And yeah, so it's a tough thing. I think that again, like you said multiple times, it's like we're changing the way of what love and relationships are daily, it seems like. And I don't know, this technology is a good thing in some points, but we talked about it in an earlier chapter about like how people don't really realize that dating apps are designed to keep you there. So they don't want you to be in a monogamous relationship. They want you to just keep looking, because the more you look, the more they get paid, right?
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like a business model. A friend had mentioned the word gaslighting to me. And I said, you know what the word means, right? It means to manipulate someone to your agenda,
Right.
right? And you begin to understand that a dating app is gaslighting. Oh, this is about romance. This is about, no. This is about manipulating you to my agenda, meaning the dating app. My
Right.
agenda is you stay on here. My agenda is there's always something better. The grass is always greener. You know, this is the opportunity. Oh my gosh, I love the one dating app. What is it called? Plenty of Fish, right? Right. I mean, come on, doesn't that
Think
just tell
about the
you, right?
name right there. That's just saying like, oh yeah, there's more than one. Go for it.
Yeah, like, oh, why are you settling with her? Come on, man. There's plenty of fish, right?
Yeah, exactly. Guys, these freaking marketers, they know what they're doing. And I'm
They
sure they
do, and
set that algorithm to make it just perfect for that you want to just keep coming back.
yeah, and the as long as you're kind of on the site, right? What I've been told, I'm not been on a dating app in a gazillion years, but when you get on, right, it shows you all the people and all the interests you've had, right?
Yep.
So the little dopamine hit to your brain is like, oh, I'm so valued. She likes me. Wow,
I've never been on
come on,
one of those before, but now I'm starting to think about like how it really works. They probably
yeah,
have analytics of you had success with this person, so you'll have success with that person. It's like this
that's
is
exactly right.
bullshit.
It's complete crap. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, can you imagine a dating app that actually was geared to monogamous relationships? It's a
Yeah.
one and done dating site, right?
Exactly. It's like once you date this person, this app implodes. You're done.
That's it. It's over.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so
Oh,
that's the whole point of it was is to kind of settle and begin to ask the question, what is love? Begin to ask what my commitment is when I say to someone I love you. What is my commitment to them? And so I just said, listen, let me explain it to you. And it was for her was, and in the meantime, it's funny, since I wrote that article, she actually has been involved with the same guy for 18 months. Right. And
yeah.
so she's actually found love again. And so I'm thrilled for her. But I then asked her, hey, did he measure up? You put the video out. I did. This is what you wanted. Did you get everything you wanted? And she's kind of quiet to that. So I'm assuming she got most of what she wanted, but
Right.
I don't think she got all of what she wanted.
Well, I think that's again, that's another one of those things that those apps probably try to portray, because like if you're filling out a profile and you're sticking all that stuff in there, you're asking it to tell you who this should be and like they should have everything that you want. But then you realize, wait a minute. Number one, most of the people that are on there are living a lie. I mean, you go and you look through these profiles, you look at like everyone's TikTok or everyone's Facebook, like they put their best moment in their
Oh,
profile
yeah. Yeah.
because that's what they want you to see, but they don't realize that you at your worst is different. And so,
Yeah. That's why my TikToks, right, are I'm sweating profusely.
right.
I've just been at a multi-mile run, and I've got a little anecdote for you. I've never used a filter, and I've always looked like crap,
Yep.
right? And so I always tell people, good news is if you like my TikToks, I'm much better in person.
Right. Exactly.
At least I'm not completely crashed out, right?
I'm
At
more
5
polished.
o'clock in the morning. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's a good chapter. I'm excited again. We got about 10 days or so, it sounds like, before this book gets out, hopefully. And people can start chiming in and listening and read it. And we've got quite a few more chapters to go through. The next one is called Pressure. I look forward to chatting about that one. Because pressure is something that we all go through.
And the maxim ends with pressure is a privilege.
Yeah.
And that's something it just doesn't even taste right to say it.
No, it doesn't.
But
like I'm
you
sitting there
realize-
thinking about it, but I also know, like I've told everyone before, like I was in a different place 4 years ago. I still have pressure. I mean, it's funny. I posted something the other day and you're like, you're on one today. And I was like, yeah, that's where I am today. That's what I think is really cool about it, is like these stories talk about where you were in that point in time, and we are all real people, and we all go through it, and we have to just keep showing people that they're not alone,
Absolutely. And that's the one thing we can all say about social media, YouTube, all this stuff, right? Is it does connect us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, exciting. Thanks for hanging out again today. We will be back to our regular scheduled Wednesday next week. Unfortunately, the comments are not working on my eCam right now, and it's funny. I don't know what the heck is going on, but hopefully we'll get it the problems worked out, because I want people to interact and talk about it. So
I appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you too. All right, everyone, that is the end of it. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/Wes Tankersley. You can get that helped out. That helps keep things going, keeps things running. And we got a couple of Patreon supporters. Thanks to Anna and Nikki Pavlovich, and thanks to Frank, Nikki, and Michelle for supporting on TikTok. Until next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.